Hey there. I'm Dave Paulides from the CanAm Missing Project, and this is my YouTube channel. I want to introduce you to it and tell you a few things about myself and what the channel represents. This is my only YouTube channel. The others you're going to see out there that are titled Missing 411 or Missing in National Park or David Paulides, they have no relationship to me. I have nothing to do with those channels. Those are people impersonating me. Most of the time it's not even me on the channel. So I would not watch those. This is my channel. I established it to get a message across regarding our work regarding Missing 411 in the books. We've done 2 movies now, Missing 411 the movie, starring Les Stroud, and that had to do with a series of kids that disappeared in the wilderness. Les did a great job in that movie, Survivor Man. He tried to replicate the movement of some of those kids, and he couldn't do it. One child disappeared and went 9 miles in 12 hours, and Les tried to replicate that path, and in the middle of the movie he stopped us and said, "I can't do it, Dave. It's impossible." And then there's several other stories in there about kids that have disappeared. That's movie number 1. Movie number 2 is Missing 411 The Hunted, our latest movie, and it deals with a series of disappearances of hunters and interviews with law enforcement about their disappearances. And so far, the feedback has been phenomenal. People have liked the way that one went down. And at the end of that movie, we talk about some other issues regarding what hunters have faced in the woods. I make it clear in the movie that I'm not saying that this is what caused the hunters to disappear, but there's some unusual things that hunters have contacted me about and stated, hey, this is what happened to me. And the 2 segments in that movie, Missing 411 The Hunted, that we included, have scientific validation in them that these incidents occurred, and that's the reason they're in the movie. And just because something happens and someone says it happened to them, unfortunately, there's a lot of scrupulous people out there that demand a lot of me, particularly, and unless there's something to validate it, I'm not going to put it in the movie. One of the things I started to do when I was a police officer is we used to keep track of criminals in our city. And we had a big map on the wall, and we'd put pins in every time somebody did a robbery, rape. And what I decided to do is I decided to keep track of the disappearances. And I started first on the Missing 411 cluster map of the U.S. and southern Canada. And I followed that up later on with Missing 411 with British Columbia. Those maps represent a lot. There's 61 different clusters in North America, in just the United States. And then there's additional clusters in Canada. And they all fit this precise profile that I established after doing work on this for almost 9 years now. I've written 9 books. And those clusters, to me, indicate that something unusual is happening at these locations. Number 1, the largest cluster in the world, Yosemite National Park. The region in and around the park, for some reason, a lot of people have disappeared there and haven't been found. And I encourage people to look at that map and come up with some ideas on your own about what's happening here. The maps are copyrighted. Please don't put them online. I appreciate that. I also have a Facebook page named David Paulides. I have the CanAm logo on there, along with my Missing 411 logo. There's a lot of people that have impersonated me on Facebook as well, and there's some people selling t-shirts on Facebook saying they're me, and it's a complete fraud. I've put takedown notices on Facebook about it. We'll see what happens. But if you go to Facebook, I do have a page. I also have a Twitter page called David Paulides at CanAm Missing, and I put posts up there almost daily about things that relate to missing people. As far as the books, the first 2 books I ever wrote on missing people are the East and West U.S., Missing 411 East and Missing 411 West. Now, I don't put my books on Amazon for a multitude of reasons. Number one reason is I get enough hits on my website that no reason to put them on Amazon. The website, CanAmMissing.com, like Canadian American, CanAmMissing.com. First two books, East and West. It was a large book, and I decided to split it up between the Eastern and the Western U.S. and just made two books out of it. That was the first book. The Western book has some cases from Canada, and then some subdivided cases about berry pickers that have disappeared. Second book I wrote was Missing 411 North America and Beyond, and I included some other countries in this book besides just the Canada and the US cases. All the books represent new cases. Third book, Missing 411, The Devil's in the Detail. When I was out investigating the cases, I started to see that there were a lot of cases in areas where the name devil came up as a geographical location. I thought it was odd. I don't think anybody can tell you how all of these locations got their names, but I think it's weird that devil comes up in a lot of these names. So Missing 411, The Devil in the Details. The fourth book, Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence, deals with predominantly young men, very healthy, educated young men, disappeared from a location, could be a bar, could be a hotel, and they end up in a body of water. There's no indication how they got in the water. Nobody sees them go in the water. And more times than not, the cases represent unknown causes of death, meaning the coroners can't determine why these men died. And what happened was there was a series of parents from Wisconsin that got together and started to do second autopsies on their young boys that disappeared because they didn't believe the results of the coroners. And a couple of those coroners got a hold of me that did the secondary autopsies and said, something weird is going on. We've known about it for a long time. We should be able to find out a cause of death on all these young men, and we can't, which is very, very odd. And still to this day, there's people disappearing that are ending up in bodies of water. And that's Missing 411, A Sobering Coincidence. Next book was Missing 411 Off the Grid. Again, it dealt with more disappearances of people in the wilderness. I did a statistical analysis in there where I showed tables where young boys and young girls reached phenomenal heights. They disappear at, let's say, 4,000 feet and they're found at 6,500 feet. Or they disappeared at one location and they were found miles and miles away. And if you're a parent, you understand that your child is not going to travel some phenomenal distance in the woods. Next book, Missing 411 Hunter, is a big book. One of our best sellers ever. All these people were armed. All these people knew the area they were hunting. And it was at about this time I started to establish another profile point called point of separation. A lot of these cases seem to occur right at that point where two people decide to go separate directions in the woods. Why, I don't know. But it's almost as though it's uncanny how many times this has happened. At that point of separation, it isn't long before something happens. A lot of the times the people separate for a reason that some describe as one person saying, I don't feel well, for whatever reason. And they go one direction, maybe back to the car, and the other person goes out in the woods deeper. Very strange. I've had many, probably hundreds of hunters at this point contact me about their stories about strange things happening to them in the woods, being watched, unusual feelings, seeing strange tracks, etc. Keep them coming. I appreciate it. Next book was Missing 411 Law, Land, Air, and Water. And I put together a series of cases where airplanes disappeared under unusual circumstances and weren't found, or things that happened to pilots that weren't talked about in mainstream media. We talked about triangles, the Devil's Triangle we talked about in Australia. There's also a triangle called the Nevada Triangle, and where a lot of things have disappeared. In the Nevada Triangle, hundreds and hundreds of planes have disappeared. And what's very strange is Yosemite is in the middle of that Nevada Triangle. So my latest book, Missing 411 Canada. Talk about this, why it's important. One of the big reasons that I wrote this book is, number one, I have a lot of Canadian friends. And there's a lot of cases in Canada that are very, very odd. Very odd. And they use Native American trackers. They weren't getting the results that we would get in the States. Many cases occurred around water. By the way, if you're hearing some wind, sorry, but it is freezing cold. In case you're wondering, I'm about 20 miles outside of Bailey, Colorado, and at about 9,000 feet. It's about 20 degrees out right now, so yeah, Dave was a little cold. Getting back to Canada, a lot of cases occurred around water. And water is a predominant theme in many of the cases I've written about in all the books. The Canadian cases, it seems like southern British Columbia is a center point for many of these incidents. And in the book, in the Canadian book, I include a British Columbia cluster map because I think it's important for you to look at that and see for yourself how unusual this is. So that just came out. It's another big seller. I've gotten a lot of feedback from Canadians and Americans, U.S. residents about it. I encourage you to get it and read it. Talk about something else. I've never, ever had an email or communications with someone who have read my books and said, hey, I have it figured out. I know what's happening. It's never happened. You'd think maybe it has, but it hasn't. I get a lot of emails from people who are watching videos online that aren't mine that say, hey, I think I have this figured out. And they got to realize that there's a group of people that are working on this every day. Some of the smartest people in the world. And we communicate all the time. And we've looked at every possibility I think you can imagine. We are very open to ideas. It's pretty obvious at this point that it's not a serial killer on the trail killing people and dragging them away. And I get that every once in a while. And let me put that to rest. I live here in Colorado, which is where we're at now. And about 80% of the hikers in Colorado carry a gun. And if one of those hikers was confronted on the trail, there'd be a shootout. No one's going to take me anywhere on this trail. They'd be dead. One of us would be dead. You would find blood. You'd find drag marks. And the case would be solved quickly. But in the cases that I write about, there's no tracks leaving the scene. There's no scent trail. There's almost no physical evidence. And that's part of the peculiarity of it. So when you think about writing to me, think about you're writing to somebody who knows a lot about this topic. And the people who may respond to you on email know a lot about this topic. We've looked at feedback from people who are experts on aliens. I've spoken at a lot of MUFON conferences, the Mutual UFO Network. In fact, I spoke at their national conference. I have never, ever stated that I understand what's happening here, or that I think a certain subject is doing this. I've never said it. But there's a lot of people out there who have read the books who believe something like this may be occurring. And so I get invited to these conferences. And I go where I'm invited because I need to get the word out. So some people think it's aliens. Other people think it's the military on some kind of special operation that's kidnapping us and doing something with our bodies. Some people think it's a serial killer. Other people think it's some kind of cryptid, dogman, Bigfoot. Other things I've heard is it's some kind of international space agency that's kidnapping people for blood. I've heard it's something called reptoids, which I really know little about. But again, this has come from people who really haven't read the books and they don't understand. And the people who try to diminish the quality of the books also haven't read the books. Because I have tables, graphs, lists, timelines, statistics. And if you understood those and you understood how complex this research is, you'd get it that this is a serious issue. And I have never, ever told the public not to go into the woods. I've never told the public not to go to U.S. National Parks Force. I go all the time. I say, go smart. Go with a partner. Don't separate. Carry a gun when you go into the woods. Carry a personal locator device every time you go into those woods. It costs about $200 on Amazon. Get one, keep it with you. Always carry a backpack with some extra supplies, extra bottle of water, some extra food. And be smart about things. Before you leave, check the weather. Understand if that weather is going to be good. Understand if it's going to be bad. If it's going to be bad, maybe you shouldn't go out. But weather's a big issue in a lot of these cases. There's a weather event right around the time the person goes missing. Well, maybe that wouldn't be so frequent if people did check the weather before they left. A couple other things. Yeah, I am Dave Paulides, and hopefully this isn't going to be pirated and put on other channels. The channel you're going to watch this on right now has many, many other videos that I've made over the years, some in Australia, many others in the United States. I don't ever try to pull the wool over your eyes. The facts I present in the books are directly from a source that I cite in those books. I don't make things up. And I encourage you to continue to forward me new cases as they come along. I think it's important. I get cases from all over the world, even today, thanks to you. And I want you to keep forwarding those to me. I'm one of those authors that's an open book. And what I mean by that is at the end of every one of my books, I list my email address, and it's missing411@yahoo.com. And I encourage you to write to me about your thoughts and ideas. When you're done with the books, please pass them on and donate them to a library. I want people to read these. I want to get it in front of as many people as I can. I want the people, the hikers, the hunters that go into our woods to be educated. And I also don't want you to back down from others who may challenge you about this specific topic. Be well understood about it. Lastly, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support. The emails I get, the people that contact me at conferences, you guys are the best. I appreciate it. Please pass the word, watch the movies. The movies are on iTunes, Amazon, Vimeo. The books you can get at our website, CanAmMissing.com. And you're going to see something from me that you haven't seen in the past, and that is that I'm going to change the focus of this channel. You're going to see me a lot more often. When there's a current case that comes up that really needs some attention, I'm going to talk about it and post something online just like I am today. And as we go forward and there are timely topics that come up in media, etc., I'll probably come up and talk about it as well. So pay attention to the channel, watch it regularly. If you have something that you want me to discuss, send me an email. In the meantime, be careful, and thanks for your support.